We've been spending a lot of time recently at SearchPilot discussing rankings and click-through rates, and in particular, how to summarize and average them across groups of pages. And there's a few really interesting gotchas that I thought it'd be worth talking through today. This is a view of Search Console. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. This is a small subset of SearchPilot's own data filtered to a particular set of queries over a particular set of pages. And I'm going to just show you what happens if we export this into a Google Sheet, which looks like that. And there's a load of data that comes out of this. This is the queries data. You also get per page data. And there's a couple of interesting different bits and pieces that we can draw out of this. So the first thing I want to do is just show you a very quick run through how to generate your own custom click-through rate curve for your own site section or group of queries or whatever else it might be. So what we're going to do first is we're going to turn this position into a bucketed position. So we're just going to take the floor of that data, which gives us calls 1.5 and 1.3, both position 1, 2.08, position 2, and so on. And we're going to stick that into a quick pivot table. The first thing to realize is that when you're averaging click-through rate, you can't just average click-through rate. If I just show you what that looks like, obviously the sum doesn't work, but even the average is a very broken metric because you are averaging averages. And these numbers are not correct. Just let's remember 33%, 9, 9, 3, 4. Okay, actually, let me just stick that in a cell over here somewhere so that we can see that in a minute. Okay, what we actually need to do instead is look directly at the impressions and clicks and calculate our own click-through rate. And turn that into a percentage. And you can straight away see that these numbers that we had before are not correct. It looks much more like this in reality. So if I just get rid of the total row and plot this, it looks like a kind of click-through rate curve that you're kind of probably reasonably familiar with. Obviously, it's dominated by position 1. So if we just delete position 1 for a second, there's a bit of messiness, a bit of noise, because this is obviously a fairly small site section on our site. But you see the kind of steep drop-off in click-through rate that you would expect, and the kind of long tail curve that we're all used to seeing. So a few things in there. The biggest thing is to remember that you can't average click-through rates because they're already averages themselves. And so you need to go back to the raw data and calculate your own click-through rate in those situations. But there's something that's also interesting and a funny little gotcha that I discovered when I was talking this through with a colleague the other day, which is this works on queries just about. Now, these positions are, of course, average positions. Nobody ranks at position 1.56 for anything. This is a combination of sometimes ranking position 1, sometimes ranking position 2, whatever it might be. And I hate average rankings. Really hate them. They're the least helpful thing in the world, and we've been spending a lot of time thinking about how we can aggregate our data better at SearchPilot. But I just wanted to demonstrate the problem with this, which is if you try and do the exact same calculation I just did to look at our click-through rate curve, but instead of looking per query, which has these kind of slightly blended rankings, we look per page, where these are super blended rankings, and you can tell because most of them are in the 30s, 40s, 60s, 80s. It's so unhelpful, the fact that we occasionally rank for something on page 23 or something. You can just have arbitrary numbers start popping out here. So let's just do the same calculation and show how this doesn't work. Dump this into a pivot table again. Do the exact same thing. So we want our bucketed position in the rows, impressions and clicks in the values, get rid of the totals, get our click-through rate, clicks over impressions, and this is already looking weird. So let's plot it, and you'll see just how weird it is. What is going on here? So this is a click-through rate curve, apparently. This is showing that we get way more clicks when we're in position, whatever this is, in these kind of 15, 16, 17, 18 positions. Click-through rates in the 1, 2, 3% range, where in the top 10 we're getting fractions of a percent. And there's nothing to be learned here. This is basically nonsense. This is just showing that there is nothing to be learned from averaging rankings across such a large and diverse set of queries, which is essentially what's happening, because each page, of course, these 1,000 clicks are coming from a whole load of impressions on a wild range of different rankings, some of them in position 1, some of them in position 60, and you can't average those rankings to get this kind of data. So the tips I'm talking about here, average ranking is a hopeless metric. If you are going to use that data to try and get a click-through rate curve, you need to try and disaggregate it as much as possible. The best you can do here really is at the query level, which at least is averaging over a small range of positions, hopefully. And to remember that you can't average click-through rates either. You've got to go back to the raw clicks and impressions data to do that. And the broader point of something else I'm trying to do here is I like recording these little videos because I want to see how other people actually work. So as you see me do this, you've seen how I'm moving around in Google Sheets, what I'm using formulas for, what I'm using pivot tables for. And I think actually seeing this kind of work in action is hopefully a really good way of learning. So I hope you found it valuable. I enjoy diving around in this kind of data. If you've got any questions, please do just reply and let me know, and I'll be happy to follow up as well. Take it easy.